All right, I want to welcome everybody to our city council meeting today. But before we start, we've got a proclamation to read. And I'm going to ask one of our civil human rights members that maybe would you like to say a couple words? And then I'll go ahead and read our proclamation. Webster, go ahead. You're up.
Thanks for having me. I was recently faced with the writing prompt, what Black History Month means to me, and I just thought I would share that here with you all. Black History Month to me is a celebration of belonging, of culture, and of resilience. It's a month I take additional time to study Black issues and contributions. But it's not just for me. It's a time I expect you to acknowledge me, my worth, and my achievements. Not only mine, but the achievements of Black leaders and ordinary people who did extraordinary things so that my children and I can live better lives. Black History Month is a time to reaffirm to our youth the fact that their ambitions and accomplishments are not limited by the color of their skin. It's a time to rewrite the script and undo roadblocks, both mental and physical, that were deliberately set to damage and disparage us. Black History Month is a reminder to hold my head up high. As an African who immigrated to the U.S., Black History Month gives me many opportunities to learn more about the history of Africans in America. Although many significant improvements have been made, the Black struggle for equality is work in progress. We're reminded frequently of just how far we have yet to go. Thank you.
Webster, thank you very much. And boy, you've got three lovely assistants up here to help you out. The proclamation reads as follows. The origins of Black History Month started with the establishment of Negro History Week initiated by U.S. historian Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History in 1926. And whereas, as part of the nation's bicentennial in 1976, Negro History Week was expanded and became established as Black History Month, which is now celebrated all over North America. And whereas the first African Americans arrived in Des Moines in 1843, and by 1880, there were 672 Black residents in Polk County, most of them living in the city of Des Moines. And whereas Black residents in Des Moines established several institutions before 1870, including two Black churches, one being Burns Methodist Church, established in 1866, which was used as a social center and school until Black residents could attend public schools in the 1870s. And whereas the city of Des Moines is proud to honor and celebrate the history and contributions of African Americans in our community and calls our attention to the continued need to battle systemic racism and to build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals. And whereas Black History Month is an opportunity to rediscover the enduring stories of African Americans and the gifts of freedom, purpose, and opportunity they have bestowed on future generations, as well as a time to commemorate the countless contributions of African Americans, many of whom lived through and surmounted the scourge of segregation, racial prejudice, and discrimination to enrich every fiber of American life. Now, therefore, I, the mayor of the city of Des Moines, on behalf of our city council and all the residents of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2022 is Black History Month, and I encourage all of our residents to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, compassionate, and equitable for all. Let's give our representative from our Civil and Human Rights. Thank you so much. Listen. Yeah. Can we get all the other guys up here too? Come on. We'll be starting in just a minute. Prior to the start of our meeting this evening, we're going to quickly go over a couple of the rules. So welcome everybody to our January 24th, 2022 meeting. Due to the increased community transmission of COVID-19 in Polk County, we have implemented a face covering requirement in our city buildings. The requirement applies to both staff and visiting public and includes attendance at city council meetings. And if you do not have a face covering, one will be provided for you. The public is hereby notified that the city council will not tolerate disruptions of its business meetings. Persons wishing to attend this meeting are reminded of the following. We welcome germane comments from the public at the appropriate time, but this is a council business meeting and the council needs to conduct the people's business. And council has rules that are validly adopted under Iowa law, and those rules will be followed. Anyone engaging in disruptive conduct in the city council chambers or the Great Hall will result in those being disruptive being ordered to leave the building and being denied readmittance for the remainder of the day. No person will be permitted to stand in the council chamber during the council sessions between the audience seats or on them, and the council members, except for the persons addressing the council at the speaker's microphone and only after being recognized by the mayor. All persons desiring to address the council may do so only when recognized, but the council reserves the right to limit the speaker's time and the order in which the speakers may address the council. Under Section 2-70 of the City Code, it is illegal to interrupt any person who is addressing the council except by a council member, and is illegal to disrupt the council meeting. Everyone in attendance has First Amendment rights, and any disruptive conduct by one person or group impinges on the rights of others present, so disruptive conduct will not be tolerated. If the meeting is disrupted, the public speaking portion of the meeting may be removed to the next in-person meeting, which is not disrupted. Those who disrupt the meeting, again, will not be called on during the meeting and will be ordered to leave the building and may be cited or arrested for disorderly conduct, trespass, or interfering with the good order of the meeting or other applicable charges. So, with that, we've had our proclamation, and I think it's 5 o'clock. So let's call our meeting for January 24th to order, and I'll ask the clerk to please take roll.
County.
Here.
Boson.
Here.
Voss.
Here.
Shoemaker.
Here.
Westergaard.
Here.
Mandelbaum.
Here.
Gatto.
Here.
Your Honor, we have a quorum.
Under I, we have a piece that's amending the procedural rules of the Des Moines City Council, and has been put on and out and has been distributed to all of our city council members. I would ask for either a motion or at least some discussion.
Well, I will move item I, but I would like to amend the amended rules. I would like to take out rules 22, 24, and 29 to be the same as what they had been. So they would remain the same.
Give council members a quick chance to review that.
May I be recognized? There's been a lot of public outrage since Friday night when the rules were added to the agenda. I know that all of us have received multiple emails from people in the public. The Des Moines Register editorial board came out against these rule changes. I think it would be a good choice for the council to take some time to reflect on the decision that we want to make, considering the huge wave of, like, what's the opposite of support? Sure, I already said that. Outrage for these rule changes. This has not been well received, and I don't think that it would be smart for the council to move forward with these.
And I,
Right.
Since I proposed, one of the main motions or changes is the second, and that's what we're hearing, that, to me, the second is, I've never understood why we never had a second. Once I got reelected, I proposed these rules change of adding a second back in December. They were, hopefully, would got it on the first meeting, they got on this meeting. It's basic governance to have a second. I have never served on a board, public or nonprofit, that doesn't have a second. A second offers the opportunity for the minority to be heard and the majority to rule. And I think it's good governance. It gives us an opportunity to make sure we understand the motion. And the other thing we've added in these rules too is extending the time to 60 minutes. I know that everybody's been concerned on having more time to speak, and we're adding more opportunity for speak too. So that's why I'm supporting it. I think it's basic governance. And I think
Are the ones that you are
22,
22?
24, and 29, I am amending it to be just remain the same as they had been over the past.
May I be recognized?
Hold on one second.
Sure.
22, 24, and 29.
So
Okay.
that means no change.
No change to those three rules. They remain the same as what they had been.
Okay. Councilmember?
Small thing, I don't believe I was provided a physical copy of these everyone's looking at, but I have reviewed them and I'm pretty familiar with them. When we are speaking about majority and minority, we have to recognize the fact that we are in a country that forced a majority of white people through genocide and through enslavement. And when we're talking about majority and minority, saying like it's good governance to have, you know, the majority rule, the majority decide what gets put on minutes, the majority decide what motions succeed and fail, that does not recognize the fact that the majority is an unnatural majority. The majority does not acknowledge the fact that we have had 3 black council members on this council ever, and now that we have 1 black council member, I recognize that you proposed this in December. The timing for when it got put on the agenda is very suspect, and it does not look good to the public. So when we're talking about majority rule, when this council has gone on and on and on without these rules, when we've had how many rule changes in the last 2 years since black people started coming to the meetings and speaking up, like that is very concerning. It looks extremely undemocratic. And not even speaking for myself and my own perspective, but from what I've heard from my constituents, they feel they're being silenced. They feel that they elected someone and that person is getting backlash and not being allowed to speak for the people on the things that they elected them for. So again, I would urge us not to pass these rules.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
You don't need a second.
You don't need a
Yeah,
second
second.
until we approve it,
Okay. All
but I
right.
would second it if you'd like me to.
Okay. I would ask everyone to vote, please.
Your Honor, that's 6 yes. Whoops, let me display it. That's 6 yes, 1 no. Motion carries.
Okay, item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended.
Move.
Second.
Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I will say that on the agenda, item 4V was withdrawn. The inspections weren't complete. Item 4EE was withdrawn. Again, the inspections were not complete. And item 4I is approving a new Class C liquor license for Maggie's Rumble Room at 1430 2nd Avenue. It's a new Class C liquor license, and that one was added. So that will come up under the consent, but those are the amendments.
I'll move the item 3, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay. The consents are moved. Let's quickly note that I'm voting no on 5. Councilmember Shoemaker wishes to speak on item 20 and item 21. Mr. Attorney, if we vote on the consent agenda, pulling those that Ms. Shoemaker wishes to speak on, I will then, if it's appropriate, ask if there were any other items, because some of the audience maybe was unaware of the rules.
Your Honor, you would need to do that before the consent agenda, if you want to do that as a courtesy.
Yes.
To see whether or not council wants to make a motion and second to pull the items that the public requested be removed under the old rules, now that there's been a change, just to make sure that that's considered by council.
Okay, let's ask,
May I be recognized before you do that?
yeah, hang on, let's ask.
I just wanted to clarify the rule that you're talking about. You said the rule changed. I don't know if people know what rule we're talking about.
Well, the rule is on consents. Mr. Attorney, would you want to go over that detail?
The amendment that council just approved would no longer recognize any public request to remove items. The public would need to contact individual council members to ask that a council member would remove the item for them. But there were a number of requests. My understanding is there were a number of requests that were received prior to the rule change. And so if council wants to consider whether or not to treat those as something that they want to review and remove from the agenda and discuss, then they could do that if there's a motion and second and a majority vote.
Is there any possibility, so the public cannot request an item removed. Is there any possibility for the public to speak on an item that a council member has removed?
That would be by leave of council and leave of the presiding officer.
By a vote or just by the, like if the presiding officer says yes or by a vote?
The presiding officer would make the decision and council would have an ability to make a motion and second and overrule the presiding officer.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe that two of the items, Councilmember Shoemaker, as I heard the list, two that you pulled were ones that were also asked to be discussed. So.
Yes, I would love public comment on those.
Okay. Well, at any rate, I would ask the clerk to please give us the list of those items that were requested by the public to be pulled for additional consideration.
Your Honor, excuse me, individuals requested 20 and 21 be removed and 13 and 17.
13 and 17.
So at this point, either the presiding officer could remove those or council would make a motion, someone on council would make a motion and a second to remove those for the public to speak. Is that correct? Mr. Mayor, would you like to remove them?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I agree that we should pull 20 and 21 at the request of Councilmember Shoemaker, and then I'd ask the council members whether they would like to pull 13 and 17.
That would require a
That-
majority vote.
That's a motion, correct? And then second.
Well, I'm not going to move it. I think that somebody needs to move that if, in fact, we want to do it.
I'll make a motion to have 13, 17, 20, and 21 removed for public comment. Can I get a second?
Is there a second?
That's okay.
Okay, there's no second, and so the motion does not pass. Let's, then we need a motion to approve the consent agenda tonight.
I already
Items
moved it.
3 through 24. And we have a second?
Yeah, Josh
Got a
seconded it.
second?
That clarification, 20 and 21 will still be
Yes,
pulled.
yes, those are still pulled off for council discussion, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Joe?
Oh, I'm sorry, I voted once. I'll vote again.
Okay. All right, and,
Your Honor, that's 7 yes. Motion carries.
all right, so we're going to pull 20 and 21. Councilmember Shoemaker, we're going to do our hearing items first, and then we'll come back to 20 and 21. All right. Tonight, just quickly for the hearings this evening, we have one zoning item, and that's item 28. We also have one vacation and a correction hearing, 2 site plan hearings, and several public improvement hearings. There's also one item that is a bid rejection for which there will be no public comment. As a reminder, for the zoning items only, which is item 28, we will hear from the parties in interest and first, and then from the general public. The parties in interest for zoning items include only the applicant for the rezoning and those persons living within 250 feet of the rezone to whom the city has sent notices. After all the parties in interest have commented, we will open it up to any member of the public for germane comments on that item. To add in recognizing the parties in interest to zoning item to speak, I will ask everyone else to not step to the microphone unless they are the zoning applicant or live within 250 feet and received mailed notice of the rezoning. Anyone who approaches the mic before it is their time will be compared with that mailed list, and if not on the list, will be considered to be disruptive and will not be recognized for the remainder of the meeting and will be required to leave the building. So please wait until I call for the general public for the zoning items, or you will be not called on for the remainder of this meeting and will be required to leave the building after all the parties in interest have been called. Upon general public comments are not to exceed 1 minute per person to a maximum of 7 minutes, and will be called upon for germane public comment unless the hearing is ended sooner for the failure to make germane comments or comments end. For the site plan hearing, the applicant will be given up to 5 minutes to present their appeal, and then a general public comment at not to exceed 1 minute per person to a maximum of 5 minutes will be called upon for germane public comment unless the hearing is ended sooner for failure, again, to make germane comment, or if there is lack of interest. And for all other hearings this evening, any person may make germane comments at not to exceed 1 minute per person or a maximum of 5 minutes per hearing unless the hearing is ended sooner, again for failure to make germane comments, or when the comments cease. As a reminder, on the public improvement hearings, only comments as to the plans, the specifications, form of documents, and the engineer's estimate and the low bidder designation will be considered germane. All other comments will be considered non-germane. And for bid rejection, no public comment will be had at this meeting on the bid rejection. So let's go ahead and start item 25. I'm sorry?
May be recognized on item 4. Apologize for tracking this off.
Is it on? Perfect.
That was on consent, and consent has already been approved.
So I thought I heard you say 4B was removed.
Yeah, it was not removed. 4B passed.
4B, as in boy.
4V was withdrawn, 4EE was withdrawn, and 4I was added.
And 4B passed.
That's correct.
Okay, I apologize for interrupting. Thank you.
We're now in the hearings. Item 25 is to correct the vacation of a portion of Cohen Park located north of and adjoining 1106 Scott Avenue, and to issue a corrected quitclaim deed to Des Moines Climate Controlled Self-Storage, LLC. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above. Again, we'll ask for germane comments from the general public on this item, if anyone wishes to speak, and 1 minute per person, and with 5 minute maximum. Anybody want to speak regarding the vacation of Cohen Park located north of Scott Street? Step up.
Taylor Weber, Ward 3. Could I get you to restate what you just said again? About the speaking rules?
Okay, on this one, germane comments from the general public, got 1 minute.
And what was the max again?
1 minute for yours and 5 minutes max.
You want to correct them?
We didn't change that rule.
That rule hadn't been changed.
Okay. So, just so we're clear, we're not limiting the public comment on these items, just on
Okay,
the
I've
Senate-
got to ask you, do you have germane comments regarding the correction, to correct the vacation of a portion of
I'm
Cohen Park?
genuinely just here trying to understand the rule changes, like we didn't get a copy in the audience, so I'm genuinely trying to understand what the motions were. and
Okay,
what the different
I
rules were.
understand, but do you have a comment on this?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm.
Okay, make a
germane.
comment on this. You're using up your 1 minute.
Oh, damn.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's super weird. So I think we shouldn't be having easements to self-storage facilities. Yet again, city is working time and time again to make sure our larger corporations and things that don't actually provide a utility to the community and items like this. I also think my points about being incredibly unresponsive to the rule changes tonight have made it really hard for people here to even participate in any of these items tonight. So
That's not germane. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item?
No, I'm just leaving.
Huh?
Just
Okay,
don't send
thank you.
your pigs after me, please. I'm just trying to get out of the building.
All right. could
Your
we-
Honor, I see no other comments. I'll move 25A, and pursuant to Rule 42A, I'll waive the second and third reading.
I'll second it.
May I be recognized?
You are recognized.
Can I, sorry, that was just on the screen. I was looking at that. Okay, are you able to put that back on the screen? Sorry, I wanted to understand, like, the correction of the vacation. Was like there a mistake beforehand? That was something I didn't understand.
There was a typographical error.
Okay.
Mike's on.
This is just correcting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, where does the self-storage unit come into that?
It's-
Is it just like that was the inciting incident for correcting the mistake?
Would you like me to answer it, or would you?
Well,
like me to
we're issuing a corrected quitclaim deed on an item. It sounds like that we have already worked on,
It's
and the work
adjacent
has
to the
been done.
park. Is where it's going to be
It's,
built.
it's going to be built
Yes.
adjacent to the park, and
Yes, it
it
was-
wasn't supposed to be zoned as a park right there?
No, it was a typographical error, which we are correcting.
Okay.
Your Honor, that's 6 yes, motion carries.
Item 26 is on an appeal by Sheldon Holdings LLC for denial of a Type 2 design alternative for a site plan for property located at 2551 Douglas Avenue. Choose alternative A, which is to deny the Type 2 design alternative in form requested by Sheldon Holdings LLC, or alternative B, to approve the Type 2 design alternative in the form recommended by the city's planning administrator, or alternative C, to approve the Type 2 design alternative in form requested by Sheldon Holdings LLC. The applicant will be given 5 minutes to speak. Is the applicant from Sheldon Holdings here?
Right there.
I think, use this one over here, I guess.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Doug Saltzgaver, Engineering Resource Group, 2413 Grand Avenue, Des Moines. And with me here tonight is the gentleman who is leasing the property from Sheldon Holdings, Mr. Derek Sanders. He is currently operating a automobile repair business out of this small building. He would also like to include vehicle sales. And the only reason we're here tonight is because the property per the zoning ordinance must be at least half an acre or larger for vehicle sales. And this site is .07 less than the requirement. City staff did recommend approval for this when we went to the Plan and Zoning Commission, but we were denied there. Thus, we're here tonight for to present to you. And I can answer any questions you may have, or if Mr. Sanders would answer any questions, I might have him come up and speak as well.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Saltzgaber?
May I be recognized?
Sorry?
May I be recognized?
Sure.
How many vehicles do you plan to be selling from this location, like at a given time?
Was that like a year or?
Sure, yeah.
Derek Sanders, 2551 Douglas Avenue. Derek Sanders, 2551 Douglas Avenue. Answer to that question, roughly maybe 40, 50 a year, something like that.
So like how many cars like would be on the lot for sale at a given time? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Well, I mean, I got spaces for at least 12 vehicles. I guess many spots as I could have, you know, as far as to sell.
Okay.
They've got about 12 vehicles, just to clarify. So 12 vehicles and maybe, what do you say, 35, 40 sales a year? Something like that?
Yeah, there's 12 parking spaces at the establishment, correct? And the decision is between 3 or 6 or none. And I believe that if we were to choose the alternative where we didn't do anything, we would not do any site improvements on this location. That's all.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions? Anybody?
If it's a repair shop right now, how many cars do you have just sitting to get repaired?
They pretty much be in and out, maybe 2, maybe 2. But they pretty much be inside the garage. I keep the cars that I'm repairing inside the garage. And when they done, they gone. So maybe 2 outside, waiting to come inside the garage.
Your Honor.
Okay.
Just,
Joe.
So you mentioned, Indira, something about site plan. Are we asking them to do a site plan update to the property if we approve this, or no? He's did it already?
Yes, part of what's included in alternative, let me see, B and alternative C is like landscaping, a fence. I believe there are some other site plan updates that are included in that. And alternative A is essentially to deny the entire package and leave it exactly as it is. Alternative B is to approve 3 spots for selling vehicles. And alternative C is to approve 6 spots for selling vehicles.
And so
With the site plan update.
You said that he's did all of the updates, the fence, the landscaping. He's did all of those things already, is what you're saying.
The landscaping is not complete yet because when the site plan was approved, I believe it was in November. As we all know, that's not a good time to plant trees and shrubs in Des Moines. So planning, which happens frequently, gave an extension until this spring to finish the installing the plant material. But I believe everything else has been completed. So just, excuse me. The only reason that we had to prepare a site plan to bring the site up to the new ordinance was a change in use, which we're asking for, because previously there had been a auto repair shop there, but not sales. And with the addition of vehicle sales, that triggered a new use. Thus, we had to update the site plan to the current standards.
And we don't have any previous zoning problems at the property from either, from him. I really don't care about any
Not
previous
that I'm aware
owners.
of, no.
It's,
Not that I'm aware of.
it's been an auto repair shop for like a long time.
And I actually did the site plan can't remember, 8 years ago or something like that, when Sheldon Holdings took over, and the site needed to be upgraded with a masonry trash enclosure. There was no, parking was gravel. We put in concrete parking, so improvements were done then, and now just more cosmetic improvements were done for the new zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor County. So is this location part of the Douglas Avenue corridor, that the improvement corridor that we approved last, sometime this fall?
Yes.
And what, so if this is part of the Lower Beaver Neighborhood Association, what has the neighborhood association said about their feelings about this site?
I believe Linda has the letter. The neighborhood association put out a letter saying that they didn't think that it lined up with the new revitalization plan and that they didn't need another auto dealership. I think what is important to note is that on either side of this business, there are auto dealerships as well, and that this is an auto repair shop, and if we do nothing, if we do alternative A, it will remain an auto repair shop. And the only difference is 3 or 6 stalls to sell cars. But the neighborhood association did come out in opposition to it in the planning and zoning meeting.
Josh?
Yeah. It seems like staff recommended 3 spots, and that staff thought that was consistent with the plan. Is that something that the applicant is comfortable with moving forward, the staff recommendation?
Well, we talked about that. He'd certainly be more comfortable with 6, but 3 would be preferable to 0.
Okay.
That's a number between 0 and 6 is 3.
Yep.
So then, do you want to make a?
I don't know if there's more public comment, I think, still before.
And I might add, if this property were 31 foot farther north, 31 feet longer, we would not be having this conversation. It would be over half an acre. So it's just that 0.07 acres is the reason we're here tonight.
Okay.
It is a 2,700 something square foot building. If you'd go inside, there's not much other use readily available for this building. It's been an auto repair building for decades, I'm sure. And yeah, until something comes along and buys up a number of properties and combines them, this will probably be the use for some time.
Okay. Does anybody have any more questions of Sheldon or Mr. Saltzgaber? If not, let's open it up, Mass, if there's anybody from the public who would like to speak.
Yeah, it's Luke Bascom, Ward 1. I just wanted to speak in favor of either Plan B or C, and ideally, encouraging a young business owner by allowing them to have those 6 spots, which when you're talking about a dealership is a pretty limited space for selling cars in the first place. I think they're making good points. Some of our zoning rules in Des Moines are a little ridiculous when you're talking about like 20 or 30 feet keeping someone from being able to expand their business in this way. I think there needs to be some flexibility on the part of the city. And yeah, there are already auto dealerships right next to him. So I think frankly, the neighborhood association recommendation doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So yeah, I would hope that you all would go ahead and vote to give him his 6 spots in the rezoning.
Any other comment? Come forward.
Taylor Weber, still Ward 3. Yeah, I echo and uplift those comments. I think that's huge. What I think is interesting is if his name was Menards, my guess is it probably already wouldn't have been a discussion because we, design alternatives for days for large corporations. So completely echo that. Small business trying to serve a bigger need in the area. It's pretty great for him to navigate this process as is. So I think you should put a motion forward if you wanted to, Josh, for alternative C, and maybe Joe can second that and give him his 6 spots.
All right, seeing no further comment, I'll ask the ward councilperson, what's your...
That's interesting. I want to know, I kind of want to, what are y'all comfortable with doing? Are you comfortable with 3 or comfortable with 6? Just whichever motion I'm going to make. I don't know what I'm going to get votes on.
What? Mr. Mayor, I mean, I'd prefer to go with the staff recommendation of 3, but I think you would get, at least from some council members, votes on whatever you recommended as the ward council member. I would plan on listening to your recommendation after hearing public comment.
Is there anyone who would be in opposition to 6 spots?
Why don't you move it?
Well, I'm asking ahead of time, so I know what we're going to get votes on. That's what we do, right? We talk about it.
Well, we talk about it, and you, sounds like people are willing to listen to your motion, so...
Well, that's what Josh said. I just want
Let's
to
see if you
know
can get
what
it.
anyone else thinks.
Are you going to move it?
Connie had something to say.
I was just going to say, I would prefer the staff recommendation only because I think in the long run, what the plans are, the 3, I think gives an alternative. You still have spaces behind, so the frontage isn't that, I don't know how much frontage there is, but, I mean, it still gives opportunity to sail even behind it, right?
I think it's 12 total, so it would just be like 3 spots only would be allowed for sales in the whole entire.
Yeah, but if they're parked on the spot in behind, I mean, if you have spot parking, I mean, what is it, how many do you want along the frontage?
I believe there's 3 spots in the front, correct?
Well, yeah, the top part, yeah, I got 3. Yeah. But right behind it, I have 6, 7.
Like 3 on the street and then like 6 on the building, basically?
If I may, the frontage is about 100 feet, but there are 2 driveway approaches that take up the majority of that distance.
Okay.
Then we have 3 parking stalls and a landscaped island on each side of the parking stalls, so we get 3 on the front.
So what they're asking for is 3 more in behind? Okay. That's why I want clarity, because the frontage is probably, if it would be 6 across or 3, so it sounds like there's 3 across.
Mr. Mayor, just, if this was only a car lot, I would be very comfortable with 6 or even more, but this is also a car repair place that it's difficult to get parts. You can't pull a car in, fix it. Sometimes it's going to sit for a while waiting for parts, so you're going to have cars that are going to be sitting on the lot also that we're going to have to deal with. And with the neighborhood's letter, I mean, I would be comfortable with staff recommendation if you're asking. I would be much more comfortable with the 3 spots in the staff recommendation.
All right.
And I'd be happy to second it if you move that.
Okay. I think that in the spirit of compromise, since we have had, the neighborhood association coming out, and also because you said that you were okay with 3, that you would take 3, I think it is important, I want to note that we are, while we have this revitalization district, that we are uplifting minority businesses. This is a huge area with a lot of minority businesses, so it's really important to me that we're not, undercutting that in any way. So I will move alternative B.
Just quick clarification. I think that we should be uplifting all businesses that are on the corridor and everywhere inside of our city.
I'll second. I'll
Okay,
second.
we've got a motion and a second. Ask everybody to vote, please.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Thank you for your support.
All right. Item 27, which is on appeal from Glad Tidings Assembly of God Church, is the owner and represented by Bill Winnig. the officer on the denial of a Type 2 design alternative for site plan for property located at 2145 East Army Post Road. Choose alternative A, which is to deny and approve the Type 2 design alternative, or alternative B, which is to approve the proposed Type 2 design alternatives in the form requested by Glad Tidings Assembly of God Church. All right, that's the item. Any,
Happy to listen to any comments.
okay.
If there's anyone here to comment on it.
All right, is there anyone from Glad Tidings here or their representative?
Mr. Mayor, I definitely need more information coming from staff and planning and zoning. We had a discussion. I've had a discussion with the pastor. I'm going to move to continue item 27 until hopefully we can set up a meeting with staff. I can get some more information, and we'll set up a meeting with the applicant also, and hopefully come up with some type of compromise that we can all be in agreement with. So I will move item 27 to continue.
I'll second that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
to when?
To the next meeting, which
Okay.
is February 7th.
Seventh.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second to continue.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Okay, item 28, this is a zoning item, so it's on request from Drake University to review and approval of an amendment to the University Square Legacy Plan Unit Development and rezoning for property at 1236 24th Street to remove approximately .56 acres to be rezoned to MX2 mixed-use district to allow the development of a mixed-use project including residential and commercial uses. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above. We'll ask, are there any parties in interest here either? All right, step right up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I'm Ryan Arnold, representing Drake University, 2507 University Avenue. First, I want to thank city staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission on their work to bring this request to this public hearing. Second, I ask you to support the rezoning request and, if possible, to waive future considerations. The parcels considered here will be sold by the university to merge urban development. The full scope and use of these parcels will be discussed at next few city council meetings. And the decision today is simply on rezoning of the existing PUD into MX2. The 2011 Drake Neighborhood Plan outlines the redevelopment of underutilized property within Dogtown with a focus on mixed use. This city block holds strategic importance to the stabilization of the district. Redevelopment of this block will continue to promote connections between campus and the university, the campus, university, and the neighborhood. It will aid in the success of the Des Moines Film Society's restoration of the Varsity Cinema, and by adding new mixed-income housing with complementary commercial space, the property will add to the vitality of Dogtown with zero direct displacement. Further, Drake University and Merge Urban Development held extensive community engagements with residents and business owners since 2019. The feedback of our neighbors is important, and we've taken every measure to listen and to incorporate the best we're able. So as a first step, I ask you to please support this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Ryan, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to know if any of your community engagement included students.
Yes.
Okay. Got positive feedback?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Any other parties in interest?
So what do you move?
Seeing none, do we have any comments from the general public?
If you chose to.
I'd say I'm both a party of interest and the general public. I'm Abby Banks. I live in the Drake neighborhood, and I'm a student at Drake University. I'm a current undergrad, and I live off campus. I might be a little out of the loop. We're doing Zoom school in a pandemic still, but I would just hope that in the future that students are more involved in making decisions about our communities, and just ensuring that the businesses that are going to be coming into our neighborhood and our communities are supporting a diverse business area, homes, income, and is not contributing to further gentrification of the Drake neighborhood and specifically Dogtown. So just for the future and for this, from a Drake student, go Bulldogs.
Hello, Adam Callanan. Ward 3. I'd like to say a couple things. First off, the community engagement piece. I don't know that I can trust that Drake has done decent community engagement after how they responded to the community engagement around the Drake Stadium. And knowing that that has also kind of blown up in a big way, that project is still kind of in a weird limbo now. I don't know that we should keep making more plans with Drake until that is cleared up in some way. I'd also like to point out that the person from Drake said there's going to be 0 direct displacement. That implies to me there's going to be indirect displacement. I don't know what the difference is, but that concerns me, and I'd like to see that looked into before passing this. Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
Taylor Weber, Ward 3. Yeah, that comment also was rather concerning. No direct displacement. I actually just went to my first planning and zoning meeting last Thursday, and boy, was that eye-opening. But an urban renewal project is going to be coming for you guys to vote on in the coming weeks, and it's related to this area. And they had an affordability aspect that they'd had for that. Is there any guesses at what affordable apartment is for like a 2-bedroom in this area? $1,400. $1,400 is affordable, right? And so that's not actually affordable. So what he's saying is it's affordable by the standards you guys have to follow legally, and it meets those needs, but it will displace people that live there today. This is not going to be something that you can just hope is a thing that's going to magically be equitable for everyone. You need to make sure that there's language in these items to make sure it's truly affordable and not actually displacing people.
All right, I don't see anyone else. Do we have any motion or?
Oh, my microphone's already on. Am I recognized? Okay. So I am torn about this. When I spoke to the development, economic development department, the projected rents for this building that we're talking about lined up with were even lower than the median income in the area. So like the 62%, I think it was 62% of like the HUD median income was what was found for the area, and this was a little bit lower than that, where the incomes for the studios, 2 bedrooms, everything like that, still was up in like the 1,000 range when we got to like the 2 bedrooms. And just having been a college student recently in my life, I know that that is very expensive. The other point that I want to make about this that gives me pause is having watched the Drake neighborhood and how it's changed over my lifetime, and that there's been a lot of upzoning, what's the word I'm looking for? It's gotten a lot more expensive, is what I'm trying to say. Especially along the university corridor, a lot of new buildings have popped up that have these high-rise expensive apartments that I know college students and other people who live in the area can't afford. Just the entire landscape of the Drake neighborhood has changed since I was younger, even in high school, in like the 2010s. So this makes me hesitant. What I think I would like to do is make a movement to just do the first consideration. I'd like to see if there's any more communication that comes out about this as we do the second and third readings. Is that sufficient language for a movement, or?
So you're going to move
I'm going to move
the
item
item and,
28A.
so 28 and 28A.
Yeah, and that's all.
Okay. We have a motion for 28 and 28A, and we have a second.
Go ahead.
May I be recognized?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's fine to take more time. I do want to say I think this is a good project. I appreciate the work that Drake has done to bring this project forward. We're taking what was previously, I mean, effectively, most of this was parking lot, and we are building housing there. It's connected to the campus. It's density in an area that is close to one of the most accessible transit lines. So this is the type of housing that you want on transit lines, a piece of affordability. People can live in these apartment units without having to have a car and actually get around this community pretty effectively because they're close to a transit line. I'm appreciative that Drake has brought this project forward. I agree that we need to keep working on affordability, not just in this project, but in others. One of the things that I am thankful for is that this project, while it is, there is plenty more to be done to reach affordability, this project is including affordability in it and provides a model for other developers that I hope will be followed going forward. So I'm appreciative of this particular project. I'm open to further discussion on it, but I will support the motion.
I also want to thank Drake for taking property that we received no tax base at all, and offering an opportunity to develop base that will help other projects going forward, and the revitalization of an area that was primarily businesses that were their offices or parking lots. They've taken and the other things that they developed, they've taken parking lots and created more housing and more vitality for this neighborhood to bring in more businesses, which is a truly mixed business community that I think we should be proud of. And utilizing of spaces, Councilman Mandelbaum has said it's density along the corridors, which we've been talking about. And I think that we should have hopefully more property land that's been nonprofit, non-taxable, be able to be redeveloped into something that's more livable and creating more opportunities. So I will support this motion also.
All right. Let's vote. It's been moved, seconded.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Item 29, which is on the 2021 Parking Garage Repair Program, a resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as Fisher Building Services, Inc. Douglas R. Fisher is the president, $177,768. Council Communication Number 22-013. A is approval of the contract and the bond. Any comments from council? If not,
I'll move number 29 and 29A.
okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's open it up and see if there's any discussion by the general public. Go ahead.
Taylor Weber, Ward 3. So this is about $200,000 for some maintenance, parking garages downtown at 3rd and 5th. I think we got some other city garages down there as well. I don't know if you know anything, but I think that just got open finally, which is awesome. But I know we have like way more parking downtown than we need currently. So I would actually encourage you, instead of spending more money on maintenance and upkeep of these things, can we utilize these in some other way? I know we've got things like not wanting to open a warming shelter, but what if you just let people stay in an empty parking garage to protect them from the elements, things like that, right? Get innovative here if we're going to be spending money to upkeep parking garages that aren't being used, because, again, we're in COVID, we're working remotely, we're encouraging transit. Appreciate the eye rolls, but that's what I got.
All right, we've got a motion
May I be recognized?
in a second.
More public
Got
comment.
one more? Go ahead.
Luke Bascom, Ward 1. I just wanted to second Taylor's motion. I think that, we talk a lot, or I hear a lot of talk in here about moving towards sustainability. And this is a decision that is incentivizing, more car traffic within the city. We need to be thinking about ways that we can cut down on relying solely on, car traffic. We got to use public transit more. And also on Taylor's point, it seemed really hard to consider opening up a warming shelter on last Friday when we talked about that, because the resources weren't there maybe, or I don't know what the issue was. But then with projects like this that aren't time sensitive, that don't have anybody's life at risk, it's fine to just shell out $200,000. So it's just a hard one to understand your priorities.
Right about 1923 Willowmere Drive. Just very briefly, every single decision the council makes and the city makes should be evaluated for the impact upon global warming. And I think if you did an assessment upon building or improving or even maintaining existing garages, it would not be positive.
All right, we've had comment, we've got a motion.
May I be recognized?
We've got voting going on, but go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I thought we usually did council speaks after the public speaking in the hearing, so I waited to speak until then. But I am not going to be supportive of spending money on parking garages. I think that we need to be cutting down on parking garages in Des Moines, especially downtown. I think that'll move us closer to sustainability. I think that'll move us closer to, or move us farther away from car dependence, actually. And we're just talking about, like making, creating density, and this is really the opposite of that on a much larger scale, so I will not be supporting this.
Your Honor, that's 6 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
Item 30. Item 30 is on the 2022 mid-block pedestrian signal improvements, resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder is Tyzac Concrete, Inc. Steve J. Rutt is the president, $434,210. Council Communication number 22-016. A is approval of the contract and bond and permission to sublet. Let's open it up. Any comments from the council? If not, we'll open up for the general public. Pedestrian signal improvements.
Taylor, Weber, Ward 3. I think this is a great idea. I genuinely think that these improvements are going to be really great for these areas that impact. One of them I drive by every day down by Lincoln on Southwest 9th. That pedestrian crossway, especially during school hours, is a hectic area to drive. And I think having these increased visibility signals is really going to help in those areas. I do have a couple questions about making sure they're super accessible. Are they, I know we got like auditory sounding ones downtown, especially in the school area, like making sure those things are as helpful as they can be for safety and everything else for the kids. So I think you guys are doing a great job, and I think you should support and pass this.
All right, could we have a motion?
I believe there were questions in that Is there an opportunity to get those questions answered? Like, are there the accessibility features on these? And I think I also had a question. I believe that this is part of a larger program where we're like extending walk times, because I know that that has been an issue, but I think that that's what we've been working on with these improvements.
Yep. Steve, thanks for coming up. We have some questions regarding the mid-block pedestrian signal improvements and wondering, I think, what they are and how they're going to improve public safety.
Yep. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Steve Neighbor, City Engineer and Des Moines resident. Yes, this project is to replace existing mid-block signals for pedestrian crossings with upgraded high-intensity activated crosswalks. The high-intensity activated crosswalks are similar to ones you see right out here next to the Grand Avenue Bridge. And so these are at 3 locations. These would be upgraded, and our signals are required to meet the Americans with Disabilities Act, including things such as height requirements and locations of where the push buttons are located. We have to have them within certain distance of the actual ramp and crossing. And also, I think there was a question about the sound devices. We do add those, the pulsing sound for as well. So, yep.
You answered my question before I even asked it. I was going to ask about height. Awesome.
I'll move item 30, Your Honor. 30 and 30A.
I'll second.
30 and 38 have been moved and seconded.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Item 31 is on Closest Creek Stormwater Improvements Phase 3, resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, the engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as SM Henniges and Sons, Inc. Steve Henniges, the president, $8,376,076.22. Council Communication Number 22-017, A is approval of the contract and bond and permission to sublet. We'll ask if there's any public comment or regarding this project. Seeing none, could we have a motion?
I'll move to approve item 31. And 31A, thank you.
Second.
30 and 31 and 31A have been moved and seconded.
Mayor, if I could, just real
Yes.
quick, and just add to that, an enormous amount of work has been going into the planning for this project, and you'll see the dollar amount reflects that, and gotten a lot of great input from the neighborhoods as the project progressed.
Yep.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
It was needed.
Now, this is a public safety project, so I want to thank everybody, and Indira, your ward is going to be improved with this project.
Is this the same contractor, Mayor County, that has done the phase 1 and 2 for the
think it
Closest
is.
Creek? I believe it is.
Yeah, I think I just,
They did quite a bit of them all around.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks.
Item 32 is on George Flagg Parkway resurfacing from Fleur Drive to Southwest 30th Street. It's a resolution approving the plan specifications, engineer's estimate, receive and file the bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as Inroads LLC. Joseph J. Manette is the CEO, $428,073. Council Communication Number 22-23, A is approving the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. Unless council has any quick upfront comments, we'll open it up and see if there's anyone from the general public who would like to make comment on this project.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Chris Green. I live at 3901 Southwest 56th in Des Moines, and I have a business at 2208 George Flagg Parkway, which is right in the middle of this project. On behalf of Southwestern Hills neighbors and Valley Garden people, I'll take the liberty to say thank you very much. This is a very much needed project. George Flagg has been used during Park Avenue improvements and closings and other detour arrangements. There's been lots of activity. There continues to be lots of commercial, residential activity along George Flagg, and it's antiquated and worn out, and it desperately needs help. Finally, we're making movement, not to do a total tear out and repair like we've done on Fleur Drive. This is my understanding. This is a renovation type project of doing some significant patching and improving, mostly widening so it's safe. I've taken the initiative to contact Valley Garden businesses that are going to be affected, and we talked about it with Southwestern Hills neighbors. So just today I've had a meeting with Brett Lewis from the engineering department, and we're strategizing on meeting in February.
So, Mr. Green, you're in support of this project? You're in support of this project? Okay. Good, good. Your time is up, but we appreciate your input. Okay. Thank you. Another speaker?
Hi there, Noah Johnson, Ward 3. Due to a September 22nd, 2017 campaign contribution to Councilmember Bozen, I would request that she recuse herself for this vote, or that the council moves to continue.
Thanks for your input.
I want to echo the concerns about corruption. There is a campaign contribution between this person gave $1,000 to Councilperson Bozen's campaign.
Do you have a name?
I'm Natalie Harwood, Ward 1.
Okay.
And I really think we need to look for recusing ourselves from votes for things that we have campaign contributions for. This has been a consistent issue with the city council, like with the parking garages downtown, issues like that, where we have people who are financially benefiting from the projects, and I think we need to consider reforming those in the future.
You move it, I'll second it.
Marco Battaglia, 517 Leland Avenue. And I didn't plan to speak on this issue, but what she brought up was really important. And something I noticed was there's one person up here, the newest person up here, that got a majority of small donations from actual citizens. And I think we should definitely be upfront when it's like, hey, this is an issue where, you know, someone gave me a lot of money and now I'm voting on it. So I just second those comments.
Mr. Mayor?
All right. Yes.
If I may, so I'd like to move item 32 and 32A. I want to thank staff. I know we've done a lot of work on the Southwest Infrastructure Plan. And one of the items on the Southwest Infrastructure Plan is that connection from Park to Fleur. This piece is not the proposed recommendation there. And there've been some question of waiting to repair this road until that plan was done. And when they figured out what the recommendation was going to be, I'm appreciative that they moved quickly to get the resurfacing project on our agenda and done quickly, because otherwise they were looking at a complete reconstruction like Fleur, and that would have taken years. So I'm appreciative to get this done. I know this stretch of road is in pretty rough shape, so happy to move this item 32 and 32A.
I'll be happy to second it because it's a much needed piece of road to be repaired.
All right. It's been moved and seconded.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Item 33, which is on the Indianola Avenue reconstruction, East Army Post Road to US Highway 69. Resolution approving the plans and specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as Absolute Concrete Construction, Inc., Sonny E. Hall is the president, $5,996,191.17. Council Communication Number 22-024A is approving of the contract and the bond and the permission to sublet. Ask council any comment. If not, we'll open it up and see if there's any general comments regarding the plan, the specifications, the form of the documents, or the engineer's estimate, or the low bidder designation. Anyone need to see that? Seeing none?
I see none, Your Honor. Just like to thank staff for this. This has been a long time coming. I've served for over 8 years and been waiting for this project to be completed. So thank you to them to get this off the ground. We need to finish this stretch, and so I will happily move 33 and 33A.
All right. Second. Got a motion and a second. Voting's in progress.
Who was that second? We couldn't hear.
Mandelbaum, second.
All right, thank you. Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
The lady behind the curtain.
All right, item 34 is on the Pennsylvania Avenue reconstruction from north of East University Avenue to East Washington Avenue. Resolution approving the plan, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as Inroads LLC, Joseph J. Manette, CEO, $1,469,107.88. Council Communication Number 22-029. A is approval of the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. We'll ask the general public if they have any comments on the plans, specifications, the form of documents, the engineer's estimate, or the low bidder designation. Seeing none, could we have a motion?
Seeing none, I will move item 34 and 35.
I think there's misunderstanding.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand
Sorry, I
up,
didn't
sir.
hear a public comment in that, so I figured I'd get arrested if I said anything. Once again, I would like to point out that there was a $1,000 campaign contribution to Councilmember Connie Bozen in 2017 by the father and previous owner of this contracting company. I know that this is an ongoing issue, and not just that, but the super PACs, the Home Builders Association, which over half of this council has received money from, and you do not recuse yourself from projects that are backed by them. So I would like, please, Connie, recuse yourself, and just at least don't second it. That's just like
Okay,
offensive.
do you have any comment regarding the plan, specifications, form of documents, or the engineer's estimate, or the bidder?
This is about the low bidder designation.
Yes, I request that council continue so you can have a ethics investigation into the previous contracts.
All right,
and-
thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker, you're up. He needs to remain germane. I think he had his comment and he repeated it again. Second. Are you up?
Well, I would like to point out that this is quite germane considering it goes to the contractor for the issue.
You pointed out it was the former owner.
Former owner and father of the current owner. Like, this is clearly not a separate entity. There is a conflict of interest. That is the literal definition of conflict of interest. You have gotten money from the person that will profit from this contract. If you vote to grant this contract, it is literal corruption.
Next speaker.
Taylor Weber, Ward 3. I'm pretty stoked. It looks like you're doing 10-foot sidewalks for like multi-use stuff, and this road definitely is something that's needed to be improved for a long time. What I do think is wild is that we are allowing campaign contributions to really infiltrate council, and it looks like they're definitely worried about it now, so that's good that we'll get that on the record eventually. But I do think it's really problematic, the amount of money that not only got spent in the last election, but how we don't openly share that information and the conflicts of interest that may result from that. So go ahead and second again, but I don't think that's a great idea.
Mr. Attorney.
The manager's asked me to comment. State statute sets forth conflict of interest and whether a campaign contribution was given or not. This was a publicly bid item, and so by state law, it's not a conflict. You may have different feelings about that and different personal feelings, but by state law, it is not a conflict because this was publicly bid.
Mayor, if I could add that
Yes.
the council members are not involved in any of this bidding process until it gets to this point, and so they are not involved in those selections.
I think we have another public speaker.
Mayor Battaglia, 517 Leland Avenue. I come from kind of try to move us towards less invasive and less grandiose government. And to me, it seems like realistically, when I was campaigning, I was in the at-large race. So I walked on a lot of sidewalks and passed a lot of roads. And realistically, things like this do impact what roads are in what condition. So I think it might not be a matter of a current policy, but in reality, it does play a role, and I think we should at least think about that.
May I be recognized? According to state statute, you said this is not a conflict of interest. Is it an appearance of a conflict of interest?
I'm sorry?
Is it an appearance of a conflict of interest?
We would be happy to do some research for the council, but I think the problem is that the state statute says when it lists out what is a conflict for city council, it says items that are publicly bid are not conflicts. And we'll be happy to do more detailed research, but that has never been raised in 11 years that I've been here as being a conflict or an appearance, because this item was publicly bid. They had to go against other bidders that had the opportunity to bid. Whether they gave money to a council member or not doesn't enter into the equation, because the other bidders had an opportunity to compete for the project, and by statute, council has to award it to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And so the state has already made that determination that it is not a conflict.
Is it the bid is not, like the choosing of the bidder is not the conflict, but is the vote a conflict or an appearance of conflict?
I'm sorry?
Like the vote to approve or deny, is that a conflict or an appearance of conflict?
I don't believe so, but we'll be happy to look at that further for council. But that's, as I said, that's never been raised before. We'll provide you with a legal opinion. But it's going to be, I don't see how it can be a conflict when the state, the people living in the Golden Dome, have already said it's not a conflict for the purposes of bid awarding.
I think that if there is that question, if that's something that we need to research, then we should be continuing something like this.
That's up to council.
I mean, I'll make a motion to continue.
But I think there's already a motion to approve the.
Oh, okay, cool.
Did you have another comment? No, you're fine.
Tap it.
Frank Weber, 43. Yeah, I think you probably need to take another look at that. It's definitely an appearance of a conflict of interest, because it appears like there's a conflict of interest, and that's like literally the definition. At least in my understanding, when I was looking into the the bullshit ethics or rules that you guys voted into last year, they were very weak. And I just wanted to take this moment to say that, yeah, Connie, you should recuse yourself, and you know you should recuse yourself. And also, Connie, Josh, you're hella corrupt. You all are. Well, with the exception of Indira.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go on.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
All right, we've got a motion in a second.
I have a motion. I'll second. Yes, thank you.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Item 35 is rejecting all bids on the Nahas Pool painting improvements and close the hearing on the plan specifications, form of contract documents, and the engineer's estimate. Council Communication number 22-014A is ordering the construction of the Nahas Pool painting improvements, receiving of bids 2/8 of 22 and setting a date of hearing of 2/8 of 22 and setting the date of hearing of 2/21/22, and the engineer's estimate here is $135,000. However, this is to reject all bids.
And then rebid it. Mr. Mayor?
And then rebid it.
And then what's going to happen is we're going to rebid it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move 35 and 35A.
Second.
I think I apologize. I think council probably needs to move 35 and not 35A.
Okay.
Because
We're
you're not
just
gonna receive
rejecting the
bids.
bid.
Going to reject the bids.
Okay, do we need to move them separately, or?
No, I don't think you can move 35
move
A
A.
at all.
Okay.
Just-
Yeah, we
You
can't
can
move
move
it at all.
35 to reject the bids. I don't know why A is on there.
All right,
Is it not to rebid? Is 35A like, so we're rejecting all the bids from now, but then we're going to rebid later?
That's the intent, but that's
Okay.
not what that means.
Well, that's not.
Because it's ordering construction, and we can't, because we don't have a bid
Okay, I
that meets
see.
the,
Is the wording incorrect?
In that sense, then you could move A if it's going to be, if you already know it's going to be rebid. Then you.
He moved it, I seconded it.
I'm confused. Are we
And you
moving?
can move 35A, 35 and 35A. I
Okay.
apologize. I misunderstood.
Okay. Thank you for the
if they're going to
clarification.
rebid it, I don't see how that's,
Your Honor, that's 7 yes. Motion carries.
yeah, right. Just note that it's 6:19 that completes the hearings. We're going to go back to item 20, which is the legal department claim settlement and no, it's not, I'm sorry. This is approving the acceptance of an increase in funding through the COPS anti-heroin grant program issued by the Governor's Drug Control Policy Office, Council Communication number 22-021. Councilmember Shoemaker.
Hello. Kay, I believe I forwarded this to you already. I'm going to be reading from a document that was provided to me by constituents. The war on drugs has proven time and time again to be a failure used to target communities of color. Police spending is already astronomically high, so sanctioning additional overtime spending for drug enforcement instead of community services is unhelpful and enabling. DMPD's war on drugs approach currently involves raids on neighborhoods in the middle of the night, such as the raid on November 18th, 2020, July 21st, 2021, and October 26th, 2021. This is horrific and traumatic for entire neighborhoods. This escalates a potentially dangerous situation. This also involves further militarizing our police. Police raids like this often result in deaths of suspects, bystanders, and cops. This is in part because in the middle of, I'm missing a word here, in the middle of the night, I believe, folks do not know who is breaking into their home. This puts entire neighborhoods at risk. And included in this document, which will be available for anybody who wants to ask me or can go through FOIA for the city clerk, is a statement from Des Moines People's Town Hall on the raids of November 18th of 2020 and the Des Moines BLM statement on the raids of July 21st of 2021. I would just like to add on to this. I do not believe that we are getting the result that we want by increasing funding for a police anti-heroin, enforcement grant. I believe that if we're going to be spending money on heroin use, things like that, we need to be spending money on safe injection sites, on sharps containers, on Naxalone, I believe I'm saying that right, and on methadone treatments to, humanely help those who are suffering from addiction to heroin to, with self-determination, get to the life that they want. I do not believe that enforcement from the police is helping the issue. I believe it's just putting more people in jail who don't need to be in jail. So I am going to be voting, or I'm going to move to reject this acceptance of funding.
Okay, is there a second?
Probably not.
All right. If not, we need to see if there's a motion to accept the increase in the funding through the COPS Anti-Heroin Grant Program issued by the Governor's Drug Control Policy Office.
I will be glad to move item 20, and I appreciate this program and everything our police do. So I will move item 20.
Is there a second? Second. All right. Ask everyone to vote.
Your Honor, that's 6 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
All right. Item 21 is an intergovernmental 28E agreement with the Central Iowa Traffic Safety Task Force, CITSTF, which includes law enforcement agencies from Polk, Dallas, and Story counties in Iowa. Council Communication number 22-022. Councilmember Shoemaker.
Hello again. I'll be reading from the same document. DMPD is an inappropriate organization to be operating traffic safety programs. They have repeatedly entered into high-speed chases killing suspects and bystanders. We should be moving traffic enforcement and safety into its own organization. One example, a man died in May 2021 after a police chase ended in the suspect crashing into another car. And there's a link to an article there. Another example, a car crashes into a tree after police chase in the Drake neighborhood. Another article there. And another example with a trigger warning, not DMPD but local, where a high-speed police chase resulted in the death and injuries of multiple teenagers. And another article is linked there. That was 2021. I also remember in, I believe, 2015, there was someone shot and killed by the police in my neighborhood at Urbandale and Merle Hay, who was acting erratically, and that was the only thing that caused him to be shot and killed. That was a really disturbing thing for me. I do not think it is financially or ethically positive for us to use police for traffic enforcement, so I can't support creating this 28E agreement. I recognize that it is just replacing a previous arrangement, but I think that instead of replacing that, we should end that arrangement. And I will move to reject this as well. Can I get a second?
There's a motion to reject the intergovernmental 2080 agreement with the Central Iowa Traffic Safety Task Force, which includes law enforcement agencies from Polk, Dallas, and Story counties in Iowa. Again, Council Communication number 22-022. Is there a second?
Hearing none, Mayor Connie, I'd like to move item 21.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to accept item 21.
Your Honor, that's 6 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
All right. That takes us to ordinances, first consideration. 36 is amending the municipal code by amending ordinance number 16,091 to repeal and replace the description of precinct 48.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, can I interrupt you? I don't think we ever got the vote on the screen, just for the record. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you.
And replace the description of precinct 48 contained in section 1.48 and precincts 50 contained in 1.50 of Appendix B, election precincts and wards to comply with the review of and request by the Secretary of State to conform the adopted boundary descriptions with the map descriptions of those precincts. A is the final consideration of the ordinance above to meet statutory guidelines and to avoid additional special council meetings to adopt that ordinance. Waiver of the readings and consideration is requested by our city manager and requires 6 votes.
I'll move 36 and 36A, Your Honor.
I'll second.
All right, 36 and 36A have been moved and seconded.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
All right. We're going to move to our speaking items now. For those persons wishing to speak this evening under the public speaking items of the agenda, we will only be calling on those who have registered to speak, and all speakers must comply with the rules regarding their names and addresses, or they will not be recognized to speak. Each of the 9 speakers this evening will receive up to 2 minutes each to make their comments. Please keep your own time, because at the end of those 2 minutes, the clerk will announce time and the speaker's mics will be closed and we'll move immediately to the next speaker. We want to hear from all of our residents who have registered, and we encourage the residents to be respectful of the others' viewpoints that are different maybe from their own. And while you may certainly disagree with that viewpoint, I want to remind everyone that the council rules provide that any comments that are slanderous will result in the speaker being barred from further comment. As a presiding officer, I'll determine whether the comments are slanderous or not, and the fair warning, arguing with the presiding officer about those determinations on any matter is not permitted, and doing so will be considered disruptive and result in the speaker being barred from further comments and being required to leave the building. Let's move forward. Our first speaker this evening is Marco Battaglia.
Hey, Marco Battaglia, 517 Leland Avenue. And I ran against Carl Voss in his at-large race. I came in 3rd. I'm the current Libertarian Party candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Iowa. I'm a corrections officer. And first off, I want to thank Indira for running, and congratulations on joining the council. And also for drawing immediate attention to the houseless. I gotta say that in my work, I do see people that don't see a path other than going back and forth between jails and prisons. They don't see a path to, out of houselessness. So that might be the safest option to a certain amount of people. That this issue just has so many areas that it increases our spending, increases, our inability to just deal with basic humanitarian issues for our citizens. So I want to see everybody work together on this issue and not just brush it aside. So, Carl, I'm going to specifically talk to you and hope that you consider working with Indira on this issue, more protections for our houseless, and actually go a lot further than that. Look at housing first, because look at Houston, where they've cut their homeless population more than half. San Diego, where they've saved millions in taxpayer money. Columbus, 70% of houseless in homes. Salt Lake City, 90%. Look into Finland, anywhere in the world where they use housing first principles. They save taxpayer money and do good for more people. It's a win-win, whatever the side of the spectrum you're on. And also, I think by policing homelessness, and there's a crossover with policing nonviolent drug crimes, which I know, Carl, I think we were in agreement on something like that. Cannabis, moving to less policing of cannabis, I hope you'll address that as well.
Okay, our next speaker is Taylor Weber.
Yeah, Taylor Weber, Ward 3. I'm going to start with how the special meeting went on Friday. We didn't really do anything, if I'm honest, right? We continued what we said we were going to do last year. It wasn't helping people. There's still people outside. Since that last meeting, it has been negative the majority of the time, and below freezing almost the entirety since then, including getting to -20 degrees. Now, it feels like I'm gonna die when I leave my house and take my kid to school for 5 minutes. I can't even begin to fathom what that might feel like to someone who has to exist outside and doesn't have the time of day to have your ear because they can't comment on agenda items anymore because of your rule changes. So, based on that, let's get into the rule changes. Not only are you limiting your peers' ability to speak on important issues that others might not be aware of, you're also limiting the people they represent from being heard. The changes to Rule 41 are going to hurt the ability of council to hear about issues that may be of immediate concern, which they are not aware of. Indira would not be able to get a special meeting on the houseless problem in severe weather with the new rule change. Boom, not great. The change to Rule 24 that you didn't go through with, but it's silly it's even on there, so thanks for the bone, is limiting Indira's ability to speak for more than 5 minutes at a time. Crazy. Rule 29, again, why was it even on there? Limiting people from being able to speak for 5 minutes total as a public, which is already insanely limited, down to 3 minutes. Absolutely crazy. I think the biggest issue here is you have time and time again used the consent agenda to ram through things that are not routine items and are large numbers in spending, and now we as a public can no longer ask that anything be done on them unless you will lend an ear to one of us directly and act on that behalf. Connie is the only member that's sitting up there that responded to any of my emails when you're changing 25% of the council rules. How am I confident as a citizen that I'm going to get anything off of the consent agenda if you guys won't even respond to a tweet or an email?
Natalie Harwood.
I'm Natalie Harwood from Ward 1. Since 1987, there have been 17 amendments to the rules of the Des Moines City Council. 7 of those 17, which is 40%, have been made since 2020 in the George Floyd protests. Right now, they are changing 10 rules after the ones they took off, and there are 47 rules. That means 20% of the rule changes in the last 34 years have been just since we elected our most recent black council member. This is the largest rule change ever in the history of the council. When the council was all white, any council member could make a motion. Now that there's a black woman on the council, it requires 2. This means that our only council member of color can't do anything for her constituents unless a white person co-signs it. To add insult to injury, if she can't get a white person to co-sign, the motion is considered failed and not even required to be recorded into a record. What possible explanation for this exists besides political self-protection? The council will claim that these changes are not racially motivated and anti-democratic, but Josh Mandelbaum himself this past weekend told a constituent concerned about the rule changes that he couldn't say in good faith that the changes were not related to the election of Indira, but he was going to vote yes anyway. The council is changing the rules to strip our only black council member and the ward she represents of their power and to hide their opposition to the policy that she and the public supports. Voters rejected an incumbent and voted for change. What does it say that no other council member seems to have any meaningful connection to the public? It's because the interests that other council members truly represent know they don't need to show up here to be heard, but we have to. They don't have the public show up every other week because they represent developers, business interests, and other people who never doubt that their interests are at heart. If this makes you mad, and it should, there's something you can do. There's Thursday night from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. People's Town Hall is hosting a meeting to take action. If you're interested in getting involved, go to bit.ly.com/PTH, People's Town Hall Voice, or People's Town Hall on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook to sign up. Thank you.
Adam Callanan.
Hello. I'll just be careful. Hello, my name is Adam Callanan, Ward 3. I would like to start out by echoing what, Natalie just said, which is that People's Town Hall is hosting a virtual meeting to make our voices heard January 27th at 7 p.m. If you want to get involved and you can't come to these meetings because there no virtual option or for any other reason, you can go to bit.ly/PTH voice, PTH capitalized, voice lowercase. It'll be on our social media as well with People's Town Hall. And to my main comments, we need hybrid meetings. Some people with COVID, at risk of COVID, or exposed to COVID cannot participate in these meetings. Additionally, requiring the city clerk to verify an address restricts participation from houseless folks or people that, for other reasons, safety or otherwise, can't just publicly verify an address. Some things that aren't obvious on the video about this meeting that I want to clarify for the record. They aren't allowing everyone into the room, using an overflow. Instead, there's at least 10 of us out there, which was not announced or posted anywhere that I saw. I leave work early to come to these meetings, so it's disappointing to come to these meetings and get left out. It also appears that there's more cops this meeting than usual. I don't have the number. It also appears that the SWAT team is here. Please correct me if it's not, because I'm concerned if the SWAT team showed up at the meeting where the council is deciding to change 25% of the rules suddenly, and also blocking people from entering the room. It's pretty concerning. It was already concerning, even more concerning. We talk a lot about systemic racism and inequality. The city spends a lot of time and resources trying to find complicated approaches to these solutions. But today we had a very simple thing in front of us, and council members, everybody except Indira, made a personal move to retaliate against not just Indira, but the entirety of Ward 1 and anybody else that supports her. We worked hard to get a voice on this council, and today every council member, except for Indira, voted to further restrict not just the council person, but also public comment in a lot of ways. It's disgusting, and it needs to stop.
Can I get confirmation on that? Do we have a SWAT team here today?
Not in their official capacity. We have additional police officers.
Not in their official capacity. How many cops are here right now?
I don't know, I'd have to check.
Can you check?
Okay, our next speaker is Bridget Peterson.
Just move on.
I want to know how many cops are here.
Can you please check how many police officers are here right now?
Not at this moment.
I think it's important for the public to know if they're safe or not.
Bridget Peterson.
All right, Bridget Peterson, Ward 2, she, hers. I want to preface this by saying that all of my criticisms are for the whites. With each passing week, with each fluctuation in our thermostats, you all sit comfortably in what I can only assume are some of the best homes Des Moines has to offer. Each week, while you bask in the heat of your own obscene gluttony, dozens of people are fighting frostbite due to your lethal and inhumane failure to protect the houseless of this community. Linda, you're my council person. I would love it if you could look me in the eyes while I do this. I used to teach preschool, and Connie Bozen reminds me so much of my 4-year-olds in the sense that she loves to show off how she understands words because it makes her sound like a grown-up. You can't just refer to them as unhoused, pat yourself on the back, and call it a day. You can't just assume. Central Iowa Shelter Service is this magic cure. If you actually talk to the people who have stayed there, they'll tell you it's indistinguishable from being locked up.
Is the time up?
I don't think the time was
But since it's not profitable, I doubt I will ever see you talk about it in good faith.
Can I make a
What a
comment?
shame.
I don't think she was that too much.
Instead of solving the very real problems that our community is facing, you're busy conspiring to rewrite
I
the
didn't hear
future
it,
in
Bill.
such a way that an alarming amount of power is granted to both Grant County and
Mike's
Scott
turned
Sanders,
off.
requiring the only black member of city council to obtain the approval of at least one other one of her affluent white peers in order to get a motion on the table is an act of racism. Carl Voss, you're a racist. Linda Westergaard, racist.
Can we move on, Mr. Mayor? Point of order, please.
Connie Bozen, annoying and racist.
Your 2 minutes are up.
I don't think they were. 'Cause she's
Oh, yeah. The mic went off.
Molly Arndt.
Oh, Linda, you're a racist too. I forgot if I said that.
Can we use the microphone?
Yeah, hang on one second.
Molly Arndt.
Hold on one second, Molly. Kay, can you turn on the podium mic? Because
I have, Your Honor.
Okay, try it now, Molly.
Hello. Okay.
Okay, good.
Molly Arndt. I live in Ward 3, 50312. First, I just want to say that no members of the public are safe if there are any cops present at any time ever. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. I don't care how many there are too many here if there are any cops here. I'd also like to speak about the special meeting that happened in regards to emergency warming shelters. I was not able to attend since I had COVID symptoms, and because those meetings are inaccessible, yeah, we need a virtual option now. COVID is spreading rampantly in our city. I'd also like to say that currently it is 10 degrees outside, and the wind chill is below that, and you have done nothing. You are letting your constituents freeze.
A warming shelter is the absolute bare minimum. We need free public housing now with no barrier for entry. We need an eviction moratorium to keep people in their homes. And we need a utility shutoff moratorium as well, because there are people that are sitting in freezing homes and apartments right now because of your inaction, and that is disgusting. Now I would like to speak to the public, because even though they don't want us to know this, we have a lot more power than they do. There are a lot more of us than there are of them. Like Indira's campaign slogan, all power to the people. We have the power. So if you are disgusted like I am by what has happened here today with these rule changes, by what happened at the special meeting on houselessness and the warming centers, I'd like to invite you to come to this meeting on Thursday at 7 p.m. Or if you can't make that meeting, to reach out to People's Town Hall. You can register at bit.ly/PTHVOICE. Or you can go to our page on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. We would love to see you here. We need everybody's help on this because we have this power.
Noah Johnson.
Please go to the wireless mic. It has been, the batteries have been updated.
Hi there, Noah Johnson, Ward 3. I was watching that special meeting at 7 a.m. and I prepared some notes right after that meeting and right after I finished calling every single office in this building that I could find a frickin' number for. So I was going to share those comments, but I didn't even know that there was going to be a rule change tonight. And it just makes them so much more poignant. I want to point out that in the past 2 years, there have been more rule changes to the procedures of this council than there have in the prior 30 years. There is no other explanation for that other than you don't want to engage with the people who are now attending your meetings. And it's not hard to tell what that demographic is and who you're trying to silence. And the fact that you just changed rules tonight to actually silence an elected member of the council is disgusting. I can't believe that this is even legal, and I don't think you even know because it hasn't been challenged in court. And maybe it should. I just think that you guys need to do some frickin' reflection on what you are doing with these rules. They are not accessible to the public. I had to reach out to a council member directly, and then she had to redirect me to a third-party source to find an outdated version of these rules. You need to put a current copy of these rules on the website right next to the agendas. You need to hand out copies at the door to people who want them, and you need to publish them on Municode along with the city ordinances that they specifically amend. This is disgusting, completely unprofessional conduct for government, and I just can't even believe that you think the correct response to community outcry about silencing a member of the council is to codify silencing a member of the council. How do you compute that? How do you get so much negative feedback that you decide, I want to make this a law?
Abby Banks.
Yep, Abby Banks, Ward 3, 50311, she, her pronouns. Again, as Bridget said, this is for the whites. And yes, Joe, you're still white even if you're Italian. I knew that getting Councilmember Shoemaker onto the council wasn't going to fix every problem in our city. When operating within an inherently oppressive system, that's impossible to do, as we've all read the theory, I'm sure. I knew there would be pushback from you guys. I knew there would be hotly contested votes. And I knew that having one new bright voice on the council would not drown out the constant, not so thinly veiled white supremacy that is spewed from these council chambers. However, the outright hostility, disrespect, and blatant movement of the goalposts against one of your own colleagues is something I find absolutely appalling to see coming from people who have sworn to represent the best interests of the community. This isn't about politics, though. We, the people, put Indira onto the council we, the people, did not put the Indira onto the council as a symbolic victory. We did that in order to operate within your system in a way that maybe, just maybe, you would consider germane, in the hopes that there would be a little less hurt, a little less suffering, and a little more space for folks to thrive in this city. However, that has not been the case. People will die, have died, and will continue to hurt because of your inaction and refusal to listen to anyone except for those who line your pockets with cushy parking garage deals, Connie in your place, street deals, and campaign donations. It's sick. I'm frankly ashamed to have you all representing the city that I call home, and you should be ashamed of yourself, and I do not know how you sleep at night.
Jolene Prescott.
My name is Jolene Prescott. I live
Sorry,
in...
we have a requirement to have masks on in the
What?
building. We have a requirement for masks in the building, sorry. Thank you.
My name is Jolene Prescott, and I live in Ward 2. And I wanted to make a comment about the last meeting.
I'm sorry, we still have a requirement for masks in the building. Thank you.
Mayor, I'll move to receive and file 37A through I.
I'll second that.
May I make a comment, though,
Yes, sure.
before we move to receive and file?
Absolutely.
You know, there's been a lot of comments made.
We already had a second.
I second it.
How about you guys be quiet and you let us handle the meeting?
There's been,
You're going to park me in the parking garage again? Yeah.
there's been a lot of comments made that I don't think are actually factual. And I just want to commend the hard workers and Melissa O'Neill from Central Iowa Shelter Services. They have served 1,668 men and women this past year, experience homelessness and food security. I don't think any of us have any idea how hard you work, and you are an essential worker. You're dealing with COVID, you're still coming to work, you're still serving the people, you're out there, you're going to camps, you're doing everything you can to get people off the street. And you are commended. I commend you, and I thank you for everything that you do for our city and our community. Thank you for being here tonight.
I would also, are we comfortable with directing staff to put the rules more forwardly on the website and then providing them at the door?
We got that up.
Cool.
Could you vote? All right.
Your Honor, that's 7 yes, motion carries.
Make a motion to adjourn, Your Honor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meetings are.
Aye.